All right, today we're going to dig into a really interesting one, the stock SST. You could almost call it the anatomy of a comeback attempt. We're looking at a classic story here, a stock that's been beaten down pretty hard but is, just maybe starting to show some signs of life. So, we're going to break down the technicals, piece by piece, and see if this is the start of something real. Let's get right into it.
And wow, right out of the gate, this chart just shows you the sheer size of the mountain this stock has to climb. The current price is sitting at just over $1, but its long-term average, that's the 200-day simple moving average, is way up there at $3.19. That huge gap, well, it tells a story of a long and pretty painful downtrend.
But that's all in the rearview mirror, right? The past is the past. The big question now is about the future. After all that pressure pushing it down, are we finally seeing the first real signs of a turnaround? That's what we're here to figure out.
So, our story really kicks off with the first little glimmer of hope. In the world of charts, every single recovery has to start somewhere. And for ASST, it all begins with winning a small, but believe me, an absolutely crucial first battle.
So what on earth does that mean, reclaim the battleground? Well, it's pretty simple. It just means the stock's price has clawed its way back above its own recent trend lines. I want you to think of these lines as the literal front line in a constant tug-of-war between the buyers and the sellers. And for the first time in a while, it looks like the buyers are actually winning.
Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty, because this is where it gets interesting. At $1.02, the price is now holding above both the 5-day and the 20-day moving averages. So the key takeaway here is that this isn't just some random one-day fluke. It's starting to show some sustained short-term strength. And that is step one in any potential recovery. You have to see this first.
Winning one little battle is a fantastic start, but you're going to need allies if you want to win the war. So let's take a look at what other technical indicators are starting to line up and support this potential comeback story.
First up is an indicator called the MACD. Now, I know the name sounds super complicated, but all you really need to know is that it helps traders spot when momentum is changing. It's basically made of two lines, and when one of those lines crosses over the other, it can be a huge signal that the trend is about to shift.
And for ASST, the MACD just did something really critical. It generated what technical folks call a clear buy signal. This is a pretty big deal. It suggests that the underlying momentum has officially flipped from bearish, or negative, to bullish, positive. It's like a powerful new ally has just joined the buyer's side.
And the good news doesn't stop there. We've got several other indicators pointing in the same direction. The RSI, or Relative Strength Index, is in a really healthy spot, not overbought, with plenty of room to run higher. A more advanced signal, MAMA over FAMA, is also flashing a green light. And finally, something called the Ease of Movement indicator is positive, which kind of tells us the stock is rising without much of a fight. Put it all together, and it shows the bulls are really starting to gather some serious strength.
But every comeback story needs a great obstacle, right? A final boss to overcome. For ACT, that obstacle is a pretty formidable wall of resistance that is standing directly in its path.
This table here lays out the battlefield perfectly. So below the current price, we have our support levels. Think of these as safety nets where buyers tend to show up. But the real story, the real drama, is what's above us. We've got a resistance ceiling at 111, and maybe even more important, the 50-day moving average is acting like a major barrier. Right at 107, that is the number to watch. And I'm not kidding, this is the absolute heart of the matter right now. That price level, $1.07, is everything. It represents the average price over the last 50 trading days, which is a huge psychological and technical benchmark. If it can break above that, it would be a major victory, and could prove that this recovery is the real deal.
So all of this brings us to a very clear crossroads. What happens at this 107 wall will likely decide the stock's fate for the near future. There are two very different paths that could unfold from right here. Let's break them down. And here they are side by side. So in the bullish scenario, the price smashes through that 107 wall, and this is key, it holds above it. That could trigger a really quick move up toward the 125 to 130 range. But in the bearish scenario, the wall holds, the price gets rejected, it falls back down, and it just kind of chops around in that 90 cent to $1 area, putting the whole comeback story on pause for now. So, as we're all watching this drama play out at that key resistance level, how can we get a sense of the stock's expected daily moves? Well, for that, we can turn to a pretty simple tool that just measures volatility. This number is the average true range, or ATR.
It's just a direct measure of how much the stock has been moving lately. For ASST, it's about 11 cents. So this tells us the size of the stock's typical price swing on any given day.
And here's how you can actually use it. It's super simple. You just take the last closing price of 102, add the ATR, that 11 cents, and you get a potential high for the next day around 113. Then you subtract it, and you get a potential low around 91 cents. This just gives you a practical, expected trading range to keep in mind as we all watch that battle at the 107 wall.
And that really brings us to the final, defining question, doesn't it? You have the technical allies lining up, the momentum signals are looking positive, and that first battle has definitely been won. But that great wall at $1.07, it's looming large. The entire short-term story hinges on that single number. Will the comeback keep going, or will that wall just prove to be too strong? That is the drama we'll all be watching.